like to welcome on stage somebody that gets up in the morning for more than just a unicorn, even though PayU is kind of one. Daniel Cohen, the CEO and CPO of... Where is Daniel? Ah, there he is, of PayU. Daniel, please welcome. Come over here. We're going to get cozy on the couch. I was looking for you. This is your seat. You get the fancy seat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, of course you do. So the fighter for justice, we're going to talk about money movements. So PayU, fintech evolution, you've seen it from the fraudster side all the way to trying to change the barriers. Try to tell people how to go on with their business and just do payments.
Absolutely. I think, so first of all, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad that you're here. You were in fancy #1 stage. Now we bring him here for a cozy
Absolutely. Stage
conversation.
#2 is the best stage on an Impact
they
right
all
now.
know it. That's why they're here.
At this very moment. So first of all, it's great to be here. And I think to your question, we're talking about tech and digitalization and everything about impact and how do we make an impact in the world. I think ultimately, for us as a technology company, our #1 goal is to make life easy and simple. And especially kind of when we think about PayU and the regions that we work in, and in particular kind of high growth regions where, life is not as easy as it is in Western nations and developed nations. And that's kind of where we get our inspiration from, our joy of coming to work in the morning and making a difference in the world.
And is that an easy thing to make a difference when we're talking like money movement? So, even just the conversation here around quantum computing or AI, when we're talking merchants, let's get real. Like I'm from Brazil, spend my fair share of time in India and Africa. Telling a merchant about how your API systems work or how cool your tech, like they couldn't care less, right? They're trying to be out there with places that have very little connectivity, sometimes regulatory barriers, or at least consumer understanding. How has PayU really broken down the barriers? What has been this crazy trajectory now? How many countries are you in?
Plenty. I've lost count.
All right, we've lost count.
Plus.
So in this losing of count, how was it? Or what is it that you're trying to bring to them to make life easier?
So I think for merchants in particular, it's not so much that they don't care. I don't think they have enough time to care.
They care about the percentages, maybe.
They have so much things going on. If it's, marketing their business and managing the stock and pushing it out to the market, that when it comes to payments, it can become very, very daunting. And in particular, kind of the countries that you mentioned, we operate in Latin America, we operate in Africa, we have a very big business here in Poland and the CEE region. And it's interesting in, particular Africa and Latin America, the more developing nations, it could be very daunting to think about, okay, how do I enter Mexico? How do I enter Nigeria or Kenya? And in particular, in the developing nations, everything is developing. The regulation is developing, the banking infrastructure is developing. And so I think in merchants' heads, it becomes so complex that I'm not going to touch this hot potato. And that's, where I want us as PayU and the company to come in and say, listen, we'll take care of that, challenge for you. And we know how to work in these developing nations. We've become past masters at working in developing nations. And I think that's, again, coming back to digitalization, it's making life easy. It's leveraging technology to make life easy and secure, listening to the other conversation, and allowing this business to happen, because ultimately, as the business happens, everybody gains. Because the populations and the unbanked populations and populations who don't necessarily have financial literacy, it moves everything forward. Mm-hmm. It brings in the advancements of financial literacy. It brings in the ability to get more smart about money and how you use your money, and obviously the merchants gain the access to the market. So I think I've been talking a lot, but I think all in all, it's. That's what merchants have to keep in their minds, that, find that right partner and don't worry about the journey and the challenges, the local challenges, because that can be taken care of. And together we can, grow the market and benefit the population.
And is that a huge part of the mojo of bringing this wide range of technology? How are you bringing that to the regulatory? Like when you look at this landscape that you're having to manage as PayU, it's quite complex.
The regulatory landscape is very complex, and sadly, it's becoming even more complex. I think the speed, and this is an interesting take about kind of the geographies that we operate in. These emerging markets and fast-growing markets, I've never experienced an industry that moves as fast as it does. And you look at Western, take America for example. They're still using checkbooks. And that's fine.
Let's not get started on ACH.
Right? It's comfortable. It ain't broke. Don't fix it. Whereas in the developing nations,
they're proud too, which is crazy.
The developing nations, they need to push forward this innovation because they have different challenges. They don't have drive-through ATMs. They don't have the infrastructure. And so for us, and being a technology company, and be specific, I spent time in fraud. I spent time in cyber. Now in payments. Phenomenal velocity. And I can't remember what the question was.
That's okay. He's in the journey. That's perfect. Well, we can keep going because you kind of
delivery of the technology.
Yeah. How easy is it to get to the merchant?
So we're talking about the regulatory.
What are we innovating at that point of sale, at that interaction?
So as we were saying, so the regulatory landscape is very, very challenging, and then delivering the technology is very, very challenging. The infrastructure. I mean, take Africa for example. South Africa. South Africa, to those who don't know, they actually have this thing called load sharing. Electricity shuts down at a given period. They have to share the electricity across South Africa. So how do you deal with load sharing? How do you deal with the electricity suddenly, popping off and you have to pull out a candle to power your server?
You mean mobile pay like in Denmark doesn't work?
So,
or Estonia.
So delivering, into these markets, again, it's great fun because you're really up against technological challenges that might seem kind of, it's just electricity. But that's the kind of challenges that we have to deal with in the markets that we operate in.
And as you're dealing with these challenges, you're broadening the range that these merchants can offer services. We all know and heard, about all this promises of fintech as a service, BaaS as a servicing. Everybody's going to become a bank. Where are we? Where are these? Where is the market telling you they need? Like, are they looking at you and saying, great, you now take all this crap in POS and tech, can you do it? Or are they, no, this part is mine? Because I'm still hearing the wrong conversation around data.
Oh, data, don't get me started about data.
Not the other pen.
But I think specifically so digitalization, that big buzzword, and banks and open banking. Banks are a very critical element in the money movement chain. They're always going to exist. They have to exist. They bring a lot of trust into the system. So they're a necessary and very important component of the chain. I think where banks kind of sometimes, and they're trying to compensate. I'm not gonna badmouth banks. Absolutely not. I think they're trying to compensate. They realize that banks and the bank, the culture inside the bank is a different kind of culture. It's not the fintechy, technology. Let's quick adopt something. Oh, AI, new buzzword. Let's quickly, adopt that into.
And wearing jeans and things. That's okay.
So I think where banks are compensating is kind of the partnerships that they're forming, with organizations such as ours, acquisitions that they're making of fintech startups, and they're trying their best to live up to that promise of, finance as a service, embedded finance. And that's also where we come, many times to the merchant's assistant, in helping them, overcome that. Again, it's almost like, we'll worry about that. You worry about, growing your business, worry about your stock, your services, whatever it is. We'll take care of the payments. We'll take care of making payments easy. We'll take care of making payments safe and secure for your customers and obviously for your business. And a lot happens in that ecosystem. A lot happens with the banks to make it a reality.
And how about the big techs?
In terms of?
Where do they sit in your ecosystem?
The big techs, I think ultimately everything is a very important component. I mean, if you're talking about Amazon, and like we operate on AWS, we operate, we have some stuff with Azure. Because when you think about the Googles and the Amazons of this world and their digitalization vision, and they're also trying to, open the world up to these populations, which, to me it's an incredible vision and journey when you're trying to create this digital world and make it available to more people. It shouldn't just be the West and the developed nations that are enjoying, the benefits of the digital world that we're building and living in today. So I think the big techs are, again, also very, very important. Everybody's important. Everybody plays a role. And together we can deliver much faster and a lot more value into these markets.
And as everybody plays a role, you have a role that gets you up in the morning that got me started in this speech. And I asked you, what is really the mission beyond, great, you're going to bring all the best tech, the best infrastructure, the best innovation to merchants to allow them to carry on their business, pay less to other people, and be merry. But what gets you up in the morning as the CEO of this organization with 100 countries and counting? We talked about it, and I'll guide you there, because I asked you, I said, somebody who usually starts in a career of fraud is often at times worrying about the periphery. And the thing that bothered me about the panel before was saying that the human is the problem. And we talked about this. We said, in fraud, we learned this rule that criminals don't care about POCs or rules, and they're kind of the bullies of the system. And what you said to me that you cared about that. So what does PayU care about when we think about bullies in the system?
First of all, when I get up in the morning, and the people of PayU are incredible people. It's been an absolute joy working at PayU. I've been with the company now for 2 years. Actually, today is my 2-year anniversary at PayU.
And that's good. This is a celebration, proper celebration.
Thank you. And I think what's kind of, when I look at Team PayU and what we're trying to do in the little parts of the world that we operate in and live in, it's making, again, our part, the fintech elements of this world available to, these populations that, sadly are not getting enough attention as they should get. And so to me, like you, Bianca, very much from a people perspective, and how do we help people and build a digital world that's fair for everybody, that's available for everybody, and that's kind of where our vision comes from, of breaking down the financial borders and making that a reality.
Let's make that reality for people and get the cyberbullies out. Stop proving we're robots, right? Does that sound like a good idea? Guys, let's thank Daniel for joining me on stage, and he's 2 years at PayU.
Thank you very much.